The marble lobby echoed with angry footsteps as Evelyn Carter stormed toward the young black, maid cradling a quiet infant. "Someone stop her! She's stealing my baby." Evelyn's shrill voice cut through the air like a knife, drawing startled stares from wealthy patrons and uniformed security. Jasmine froze, clutching the child close, her expression calm but unreadable. "Mrs. Carter, I was just—" "Don't you dare speak to me!" Evelyn snapped, pointing an accusing finger. "I knew you were obsessed with my daughter. Somebody call the police." A security guard rushed forward, hand already on his radio. Shoppers whispered. Phones raised to record the scene. The baby whimpered, reaching tiny arms for Jasmine as Evelyn yanked at the stroller. Within seconds, 2 officers entered, weapons at their sides. "Ma'am," one barked sharply, eyes narrowing, "put the baby down. Now!" Cameras zoomed in. The entire lobby held its breath. Jasmine Williams had been with the Carter family since the day little Emily came home from the hospital. At 27, she worked long hours, arriving before sunrise, leaving after midnight, never once complaining. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her gentle voice and the way Emily's face lit up whenever she heard it. Jasmine wasn't just a maid. She was a steady heartbeat of that household. Evelyn Carter, however, saw it differently. To her, Jasmine's warmth was a threat. "She's getting too attached to Emily," Evelyn would whisper at dinner parties. "It's not healthy." Friends would nod politely, though they'd all seen Evelyn's temper and her habit of treating staff like furniture. She liked control, and nothing angered her more than seeing her own daughter calm instantly in Jasmine's arms while screaming at hers. That morning, Jasmine had taken Emily to her routine doctor's appointment at Evelyn's request, or rather, Evelyn's order. But when Evelyn unexpectedly arrived at the upscale medical center, she saw them in the lobby, the baby nestled against Jasmine's shoulder. Without pausing to ask a single question, Evelyn made a scene loud enough to stop everyone in their tracks. "She's trying to take my baby," Evelyn shrieked, snatching at Emily's blanket. Shoppers and patients froze, phones already recording as the toddler whimpered and buried her face deeper into Jasmine's neck. "I'm just waiting for the driver you called," Jasmine said softly, but Evelyn wasn't listening. "Don't play innocent." Evelyn spat, loud enough for the entire atrium to hear. "I knew you were obsessed with my child. This is kidnapping." The arriving officers didn't waste time. They stepped between the women, motioning for Jasmine to step aside. "Miss, we need to ask you a few questions. Please hand over the child." Emily let out a piercing wail as Jasmine reluctantly passed her to one of the officers. Tiny arms reached back for the only person who ever soothed her. The sound made strangers in the lobby flinch, but Evelyn seized a moment, clutching her pearls dramatically. "You see?" she cried to anyone within earshot. "She can't stand to be away from my daughter. It's unnatural." Jasmine stood tall, hands clasped in front of her, strangely calm for someone accused of a felony. Her silence only made Evelyn angrier. "Why aren't you denying it?" Evelyn barked. "Say something." Jasmine's dark eyes met hers evenly, unblinking. "I don't need to," she said quietly. It was a curious answer, one that made more than a few bystanders glance at each other. Among them was a tall man in a tailored gray suit, Marcus Langford, a respected attorney and one of the hospital's board members. He had been waiting to meet a client when the commotion started. Now he watched intently, noting every detail. Evelyn's trembling hands, Jasmine's steady voice, and above all, the way Emily screamed for her nanny, not her mother. The officers moved to escort Jasmine toward the exit. "Ma'am, you're coming with us," one said firmly, guiding her past the crowd. Phones followed her every step, recording the surreal image of a maid led away like a criminal, while the wealthy employer sobbed on cue for an audience. "This woman has been obsessed with my child for months," Evelyn announced to anyone willing to listen, dabbing fake tears with a silk handkerchief. "I knew she'd try something like this. She's dangerous." But Marcus Langford wasn't convinced. Something about the way Jasmine carried herself. No panic, no fear, almost as if she'd expected this day to come. Told him there was more to the story. As the officers led her outside and into the back of a patrol car, Jasmine glanced over her shoulder. For the briefest moment, her eyes locked with Marcus's, calm and calculating. And then she smiled just faintly, as if to say, I'm not the one who should be afraid. The interview room at the precinct smelled faintly of old coffee and disinfectant. A single fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead as Jasmine sat at the metal table, hands folded neatly in front of her. No cuffs, no panic, just an unsettling stillness that made even the young officer taking her statement shift uncomfortably. Across the table, Detective Harris leafed through a thin file, his voice neutral but firm. Mrs. Carter claims you tried to abduct her child. Says you're emotionally unstable. Care to explain why she would say that? I can't explain other people's fears, Jasmine replied evenly. But I can tell you where I was. I took Emily to her scheduled appointment. Mrs. Carter called the driver herself. If I'm lying, the hospital's lobby cameras will show it. Lobby cameras? Harris glanced up, surprised by her calmness. You seem very confident. Check the camera in the nursery, too. Jasmine said quietly, if Mrs. Carter's so sure I'm dangerous, you might find out who's really been looking out for Emily. Before Harris could respond, the door opened sharply. Evelyn Carter swept in, perfectly made up despite her dramatic tears earlier. Detective, I hope you're not falling for her act, she snapped. She's been obsessed with my daughter since the day she was born, always holding her, humming to her like she's the mother. It's creepy. You need to arrest her now, before she disappears. Jasmine stayed silent, watching Evelyn pace, noting how her voice rose every time she thought she wasn't being believed. Harris scribbled something on his pad. Mrs. Carter, we're verifying the facts, he said cautiously. Facts? Evelyn's laugh was bitter. The fact is she's been planning herself in our lives, trying to replace me. My husband thinks I'm imagining it, but you saw how that child clung to her. That's not normal. The door opened again, this time to admit Marcus Langford, still in his immaculate suit. Detective Harris, he said smoothly, offering his card. Marcus Langford, attorney. I witnessed the entire incident at the hospital. Evelyn turned sharply. And who invited you? I don't need an invitation to speak up when someone's being railroaded, Marcus replied, his eyes locking on Jasmine. She didn't resist, she didn't run. That's not how kidnappers act. Evelyn's face tightened. You're defending her? I'm defending the truth, Marcus said mildly. Then to Harris, you should know, Jasmine Williams has been the Carter family's nanny since Emily was 2 days old. Ask anyone in their neighborhood who really raises that child. Harris frowned. Is that true, Mrs. Carter? Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. Of course she's been around, but that doesn't mean she isn't dangerous. You don't understand. She's always listening, always watching. Jasmine tilted her head slightly. Maybe I've heard too much, she said softly, her voice almost playful. Those late-night phone calls, the arguments, the meetings your husband doesn't know about. Evelyn froze mid-sentence, color draining from her face. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, Jasmine murmured, eyes never leaving hers. The night you told your friend you'd rather Emily be raised by strangers than by someone like me. The morning you called your husband's business partner by his first name a little too affectionately. Should I go on? The room went quiet. Detective Harris sat back in his chair, watching the exchange with growing interest. Evelyn recovered quickly, her voice icy. This is ridiculous. She's making up lies because she's obsessed with my family. Don't listen to her. Marcus folded his arms. Then let's do what she suggested. Pull the hospital lobby footage. And while we're at it, check the Carter home nursery camera. I'm curious to see how many times Mrs. Williams was left alone to care for Emily when no one else bothered. Evelyn's jaw clenched. You have no right. I have every right, Marcus cut in sharply. Because I sit on the board of that hospital, and I don't like seeing a child used as a prop in someone's tantrum. Harris looked between them, clearly unsettled. We'll verify everything. Until then, Ms. Williams, you're not under arrest, but you'll need to stay available. Evelyn slammed her handbag on the table. This is insane. She's dangerous. But Jasmine simply smiled faintly, a smile that said she was 3 moves ahead. "Detective," she said quietly, "you'll find I've kept very detailed records of everything." The tension in the precinct hallway was thick enough to choke on. Evelyn Carter paced near the door to the viewing room, heels striking the tile like gunshots. Inside, Detective Harris had queued up the hospital surveillance feed. Marcus Langford stood beside him, arms crossed, his expression cool but unyielding. Jasmine, still calm, sat quietly in the corner, watching through the glass. She looked less like a suspect and more like someone waiting for a meeting she had scheduled herself. The footage began to play. The crisp black and white image showed Jasmine standing peacefully in the lobby, rocking Emily gently. A minute later, Evelyn burst in, shouting and pointing wildly before anyone even spoke to Jasmine. "Pause it there," Marcus instructed. "Detective, do you see any attempt to run? Any sign of danger to the child?" Harris shook his head slowly. "No, she's just holding the baby." Emily's voice pierced the quiet hallway as a young officer carried her past, the toddler stretching both arms desperately toward Jasmine. "Mommy, Mommy." The word hung in the air like a gavel striking wood. Everyone turned. Evelyn's face went crimson. "She's confusing her with me. She's manipulating my child," she snapped. Marcus's brow arched. "Your own daughter recognizes who comforts her. That's not manipulation. Mrs. Carter, that's attachment. If Ms. Williams is so dangerous, why is Emily screaming for her right now?" Before Evelyn could respond, Harris pressed play again. The next clip showed Evelyn outside the nursery door the previous week, muttering into her phone, "I swear I'm going to get rid of that girl. She's acting like Emily's her baby." The color drained from Evelyn's face. "That's taken out of context." "Of course it is," Jasmine said softly, rising to her feet. "Just like the messages you sent your friends. Should I read them out loud?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a small voice recorder. "I keep copies of everything. When you've been treated like I have, you learn to protect yourself." Evelyn stiffened. You recorded me?" "I recorded every conversation," Jasmine said evenly. "Every insult. Every time you threatened to have me fired because Emily preferred me to you, and every time you said you wished you could send her away to boarding school just to get some peace." Marcus looked impressed. "You anticipated this, didn't you?" Jasmine nodded once. "I knew she'd try to destroy me eventually. I just didn't know she'd do it in a hospital full of cameras." The door swung open sharply. Daniel Carter, Evelyn's husband, strode in, face pale and drawn. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "Evelyn, I just got a call saying Jasmine's been detained for kidnapping." Evelyn rushed to him. "Daniel, thank God you're here. Tell them she's been acting strange. Too attached to Emily." Daniel's eyes flicked to the monitor, where the pause footage showed his wife screaming accusations while Jasmine cradled their daughter calmly. "This doesn't look like kidnapping," he said carefully. "Are you taking her side?" Evelyn snapped. "She's been undermining me from day one." "No," Marcus interjected smoothly. "What she's been doing is caring for your daughter while you've been busy with society lunches and spa retreats. If anyone here's undermining this family, it isn't Jasmine." Daniel glanced at Jasmine, his voice softer now. "Why didn't you tell me Evelyn was giving you trouble?" Jasmine met his gaze steadily. "Because I wanted proof before I said anything, and now I have more than enough." She held up the recorder. 6 months' worth, Mr. Carter. Not just about me, about your wife's business deals or threats, and the people she's meeting behind your back." Evelyn gasped, clutching his arm. "She's lying, Daniel. She's twisting everything." Marcus stepped forward, voice cutting through the chaos. "Mrs. Carter, you should really stop talking. Every word out of your mouth is digging this hole deeper. You tried to destroy this woman's reputation because you couldn't stand the fact your child loves her. And now the truth's about to come out on camera in front of everyone." Daniel stood frozen between them, his loyalty divided, while Emily's cries from down the hall echoed again. "Mommy, Mommy." This time even Harris flinched, staring at Evelyn with something close to disgust. Jasmine didn't raise her voice, didn't gloat. She simply looked at Evelyn and said quietly, "I told you I don't need to defend myself. The truth does it for me." Detective Harris spread a stack of papers across the table. Printouts of text messages Jasmine had just provided. Each one dripped with Evelyn's venom. Threats to make sure that girl never works again. Bitter comments about Jasmine being too comfortable for her station. Even one chilling line about Emily. "Sometimes I wish she'd just stay with Maid if it would keep her quiet." Marcus Langford spoke first. "Detective, I've personally verified Ms. Williams' employment record. She has no criminal history, no complaints. In fact, last winter, she performed CPR on Emily when the child choked on a toy and saved her life. The hospital records confirm it." Daniel Carter turned sharply to his wife. "You never told me that." Evelyn's face flushed. "Because I didn't want her thinking she's some kind of hero." "Daniel, can't you see what she's doing? She's manipulating everyone. She's doing her job," Marcus cut in coldly, "and she's doing it better than you're doing yours as a mother." Evelyn spun on him, voice rising. "How dare you? You're all siding with her just because she stopped herself too late," then hissed. "People like her don't belong here." The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Harris froze mid-step. Daniel's mouth fell open. Marcus' eyes went dangerously cold. And through the open door, the officers and clerks who gathered to watch the drama heard every syllable. "People like her?" Daniel repeated slowly, his voice shaking with disbelief. "Evelyn, what does that mean?" Evelyn faltered. "I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did," Marcus said, his tone razor-sharp. "You just told the entire precinct exactly who you are." Daniel's expression hardened. Years of denial cracking all at once. "Enough," he said firmly. "Detective, release Jasmine immediately. And Evelyn, we're done. Pack your things when you get home. You're not coming near Emily until my lawyer says so. You can't do this to me." Evelyn shrieked, lunging toward him. But Harris stepped in her path. "I can," Daniel replied coldly. "And I just did." An officer brought Emily into the room. The toddler stretched both arms toward Jasmine, sobbing "Mommy," loud enough to echo down the hallway. Harris didn't even try to hide his disgust as he handed the child over. "You're free to go, Ms. Williams," he said. "Sorry you had to go through this." Outside the station, reporters who had gathered after Evelyn's public meltdown swarmed forward, cameras flashing. But the story had flipped. They weren't asking Jasmine if she'd kidnapped a child. They were asking how it felt to be falsely accused by the Carter family's socialite wife. Jasmine simply held Emily close, murmuring softly as the little girl calmed instantly in her arms. Behind them, Evelyn's voice screeched as she was escorted to a waiting car, her face twisted with rage and humiliation. The crowd didn't offer her sympathy. They stepped aside in silence, some shaking their heads, others openly glaring. Marcus met Jasmine's gaze, a quiet nod passing between them. "Told you the truth will do your talking," he said. A year later, the glass walls of Langford and Associates gleamed in the morning sun. Jasmine Williams, no longer wearing a maid's uniform, walked through the executive floor with quiet confidence, a badge clipped to her tailored suit that read Director of Family Services. Marcus Langford had insisted she join his firm after the scandal, turning her natural insight and meticulous record-keeping into a career protecting families from abuse and wrongful accusations. On her desk sat a framed photo of Emily, now a bright toddler with the same wide smile. Every weekend, Daniel Carter brought his daughter by for visits. The bond between nanny and child hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger without Evelyn's bitterness poisoning it. As for Evelyn Carter, the tabloids had done their work well. A very public divorce, frozen credit accounts, and whispers of her own indiscretions ensured she was no longer welcome at the luncheons where she once held court. No one rushed to defend her when Daniel won full custody of Emily. That afternoon, Jasmine stepped into Marcus's office to deliver a report. "The new agency you suggested is officially running," she said with a quiet smile. "We placed 12 caregivers with families who actually respect them." Marcus returned the smile. "And you're running it. Not bad for someone who was sitting in a police station 12 months ago." Jasmine glanced at the photo on his shelf. A candid shot of her holding Emily. Taken the day everything changed. Funny, she murmured, how trying to destroy someone can end up building them instead. She picked up her bag and headed out, her voice soft but steady as she repeated the lesson she carried through it all. True strength isn't revenge. It's proving your worth so powerfully that lies collapse on their own. The camera followed her to the elevator as the screen faded to black. If you believe in justice and dignity, subscribe for more stories like this.